It's a brand new week, another opportunity to do business in 5 days, 55 minutes of each of those days. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations. That's what we do here in Business Morning. And I'm Ini John McQuarrie. We start off this journey from the global space. As usual, crude oil prices, we see surge today as the United States Navy prepares to impose that blockade on Iran's ports after peace talks failed over the weekend as ordered by President Donald Trump. Well, U.S. crude oil futures we see for May delivery, that went up following that. So a bit of calm that we had on Friday is all gone now. 6.79% up is what we have for Brent at $101.67 a barrel. WTI is still more expensive than Brent, following all that's going on around it and the United States. So that gains 7.24%, and the price at $103.54 a barrel. U.S. Central Command said that the military will blockade all maritime traffic entering and exiting Iranian ports beginning from 10 a.m. ET time today. Added that to the U.S. will not impede vessels transiting to and from the non-Iranian ports. President Donald Trump had threatened earlier on Sunday to blockade the Strait of Hormuz after the U.S. and Iran failed to reach an agreement. That happened over the weekend at Islamabad. No negotiations reached. And Trump is considering limited strikes on Iran to break the stalemate in peace talks. Remember, they were supposed to have a ceasefire for 2 weeks. Well, it seems that is being threatened now. The president said that he had ordered the Navy to find and interdict any ship in international waters that has paid Iran a toll to transit the strait. And the narrow sea route is a vital artery that connects Middle East oil producers to global energy. And we know that Iran has been demanding payment either in Iranian local currency or in cryptocurrency, and of course, the United States, especially President Trump, is not happy about that. And we believe this will be the core of conversations in Washington as the IMF World Bank spring meetings begin today. We have our correspondent there, Sarah Chimugu. She's in Washington, arrived over the weekend. They are set for meetings which officially begin today, but so far, I believe Sarah has been hearing some things, and of course we had that curtain raiser on Thursday actually, by the IMF boss, and what to expect. So, Sarah, good morning. Good to have you on the program.
Good morning, Ini. Good to have me on the program.
Great. So what are the conversations? We know, obviously, the war in Iran, the ceasefire, the talks that was not successful over the weekend between Iran and the United States. Those will top conversation. What have you heard, especially from the Nigerian team?
Okay. Just a moment ago, the Special Advisor to the Minister had issued a statement, noting the concerns in the global community, like you mentioned, the Middle East crisis, all of those effects coming hard on Nigerians. But one of the words that came to the fore in the press release is that the government is at it. The global shock will not derail the reforms of the government and its efforts to lift millions out of poverty. He also mentioned that inflation is an issue, but they have put in place measures to see that all of that comes down to the barest minimums. And some of the issues that will be discussed here would also be on how to ensure that children who form the core of the nation's population are protected through policies and then funding to ensure that the nation's future indeed becomes great for those who are in primary, secondary, and indeed tertiary institutions.
Well, Sarah, talking about that, when the IMF boss, Ms. Kristalina Georgieva, spoke during the curtain raiser on Thursday, she did talk about the effort of some governments, countries, what they have done to try to buffer the impact, especially of energy costs at a time like this? I mean, now that she talked about the fiscal authority actually leading that, but we certainly haven't seen anything being done by the government of Nigeria. So I'm wondering if this, you think, is a conversation you can actually push to the Nigerian team there to say other countries, they are cutting on fuel tariffs and taxes. They are ensuring there's no increase in the price of petrol, and one way or the other trying to protect the consumers in their country of the impact of this war. Perhaps you can also help us push that conversation to the Nigerian team about what they are doing or planning to do when even developed countries have already done it.
Definitely, definitely. Those will be some of the questions that we'll be raising over here at the meeting. You know, just last week, during the National Development Update of the World Bank, some of the concerns they raised was how Nigeria can lift the ban on imports and begin to allow people like the Dangotes to import PMS and more of that to come in, you know. But from the government side, what they are saying is that they will scale up private investments, unlock capital, and then leverage on the benefits of the AFCFTA to create jobs.
Okay. So, Sarah, we know that meeting actually mainly starts today. What can we expect? What are the things slated for today? And I know you'll be featuring on the news at 10. What can we expect from you?
Well, basically, the first event will be a general overview of the global economy. Will they be cutting down on the growth for especially sub-Saharan Africa and for Nigeria particularly? If that is done, that means we need to get our acts together as a government, you know, to get things working in the interest of all.
Thank you for joining us, and I know you'll be very busy all through this week. We'll be calling on you every now and again, of course, to keep us updated on what's happening at the meetings.
Thank you very much. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, back home here in Nigeria, obviously, we do hope that Sarah will help us to push that conversation, because we've been hearing a lot. Even South Africa, they have done something. Their fuel levy has been suspended, at least, you know, but we haven't seen anything from the Nigerian government. So we hope that before the end of this meeting, they'll be challenged by what their peers are doing, and we would hear some good news. All right, so let's head to the markets now. Closed positive last week, more than 1% up. Sustaining and gone above the 130 trillion naira level, now at 131 trillion naira, and hopefully this week we will build on that and see more positives. Banking was really impressive last week. I guess there's a lot of stability there after the recapitalization, more than 5%. A lot of earnings too. We saw GTCO, Zenith Bank last week. We saw their earnings. We haven't seen from the other big banks. And then here in Lagos, the State Internal Revenue Service, for the second time, we've seen them extending the deadline for the filing of individual tax returns. It's now going to be ending in April 21 from April 14. This is the second one. So we don't know if there'll be another grace coming, but this follows the observation by the agency of a significant increase in traffic in its e-tax platform as more taxpayers endeavor to meet the filing deadline. Consequently, and to ensure that all taxpayers are provided with adequate opportunity to successfully complete their filings, according to the statement signed by the executive chairman of the LIRS, Dr. Ayodele Subaru, this additional extension is granted in consideration of the overwhelming response and to enhance taxpayer convenience while maintaining the integrity and accuracy of submissions. Taxpayers are reminded that the filing of annual income tax returns remains a statutory obligation and are encouraged to take advantage of this final extension to fulfill their civic responsibility, according to the LIRS. Now, while March has come to an end, Celebrating Women continues as different groups, they stay on the 2026 theme, that is Give to Gain, and to further not just conversations, but also actionable steps for progress. They brought women together over the weekend to say that discussions on development, empowerment, and collaboration among women should not end in the month of March. And now they're preaching the message of collaboration.
Collaboration is very, very, very important, I must say. I'm of the opinion that women need to collaborate more than competing more, because I believe that when women rise, nation actually rise. So let's give, for instance, the fact that God has been able to embed in us that strength. So if we can pull that strength as a woman, the same thing that we share and the same bond that we share as women, if we can push it together and leave competition aside and just pushing forward to it, I feel like we can really achieve a lot of things. So I'm a very big, huge fan of collaboration.
It definitely would connect to make something good, because I have met a lot of amazing, beautiful women tonight, and then definitely we're going to be collaborating on business, on ventures, on a whole lot. It's all about, or it starts with networking, right after networking, and then we definitely can collaborate. The power of collaboration, honestly, that is something you guys need to read about, watch videos about, and then, start doing it.
Because the people that we have in our community are people with capacity. Imagine me not wanting to collaborate with another one with all the numerous platforms that I have. For the academy, having them collaborate with me means we're going to have more students learn, excellently well. And then me patronizing one of the businesses is just also going to help their business, become sustainable, right? So we're intentional with GA Elite Club, and that is why everybody in this community, even that we have invited, are intentional people with capacity, and trust me, they do not have time for that. I mean, even if they are doing that out there, from today, you can see that everybody, was talking about value and what they want to bring to the community and the percentage that they want to give, also in the community. So, yeah.
All right, that's it. We'll continue celebrating ourselves, whether the men like it or not. No, actually. With the cooperation of the men, we'll continue celebrating ourselves all through the year. That's what women are saying right there. And, well, now let's talk to him. I have a man in the studio. Let me ask for his collaboration first. Good morning, Mr. Femi Williams. Mr. Femi Williams is the Managing Director of New Waves Ecosystem Limited.
Good morning.
So I just wanted to buy you into celebrating women all through the year. I know you men complain that we always have how many celebrations on Mother's Day, Women's Day, all through the year.
We are used to it. I think you deserve it as women. You deserve to be celebrated all throughout the year.
Thank you so much. Happy to hear that. But we're not discussing women with Mr. Williams this morning. We're discussing, as the name of his company implies, the e-platform here in Nigeria. So in Nigeria, some things have changed, well, thanks to COVID in some parts. Both public and private companies in Nigeria can now legally hold annual general meetings as the AGMs virtually, or at least in hybrid format. The Business Facilitation Act of 2022 officially removed a restriction that previously limited virtual general meetings to private companies only. Now, public companies are allowed to adopt these digital platforms resolutions at general meetings that can be decided through electronic voting rather than just a physical show of hands or substituting the need for physical voting part. We've seen usage patterns change even in our legal ecosystem. We've seen the e-platforms become really a part of it, a part of those meetings, everyday meetings, television interviews, everything. We see the e-platform working. But how much of these are local? How much people pay for some of those packages? I'm sure you have an idea, or you even do it yourself. So we talk about how do we have homegrown platforms for these meetings, e-platforms. And of course, we have to consider cost efficiency for virtual meeting. We know a lot of money is being paid, inclusivity, infrastructure, and cyber security. That, of course, is one major consideration for all electronic operations, meetings, your finances, and all of that. That's what Mr. Femi Williams is here to discuss with us this morning. Mr. Williams, once again, welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here.
Good to have you. So we're talking of, we've seen how things have changed in a lot of ways. Meetings have become easier because you do not have to travel.
Yeah.
Even in our legal system, we've seen the adoption of the e-platforms also. But how much of this is local? How much is this giving to us as a country? Or how much is leaking out of Nigeria because we have to start buying those softwares, those platforms, and all of that?
Okay, thank you very much. Globally, you look at the way we interact as human beings. It has changed considerably. How we meet our God, even church attendance has transformed.
That's how we have a virtual
medical has moved tremendously. Even politics, how do you put 1 million people together in campaign now? Even to organize a 200,000 campaign, it's a lot of logistics, and all these things can be done easily. The economy is also not saying the right things, because now the January 1, fuel was X amount, now is over 1,000 naira. There is no worker here in Nigeria that is not looking for more salaries. So everybody has to ingeniously look for how to meet in a much more proficient and economic way. And trust me...
And some offices have also adopted virtual working from home.
Actually, there is no business now. If you don't adopt a little bit of e-meeting or e-collaboration, you are going to miss out. How do you get people into the studio at the right time, all the time? It's not possible. If you really want quality people, then you have to reach out to them. Education now can follow people. People can consume education wherever you be. You don't have to go there for education. I mentioned church. Okay, you can consume religious content without going to churches. On a side note, when I was younger, if I don't get inside the church and I pray, I don't feel fulfilled. Now I'm fine, you know, and because E can now bring God to me, and I can meet my God, you know, E virtually, and that has been very, very effective. Talking about local content, there has been various effort at it. From some of the things we are hearing about trouble between America and Iran and all that, we realize that national digital strategy is very, very important. If you have your meeting on my platform, the likelihood of me mining your data and using it for whether overt or covert means, in fact, information is not warfare, is very sacrosanct. So we need to consciously as a Nigerian, allow Nigerian content and Nigerian platforms to be.
Yeah, but I mean, being Nigerian content, does this give us the assurance that we are secured?
Good. So, which one is much more secure? If I do something that is not good now, Nigerian Senate can summon me. Nigerian Security Advisor can come and pick me if I do anything that is against the interests of Nigeria on my platform. But if Zoom does it, what are you going to do? If other platforms that are not Nigerians do it? So the sovereignty is being redefined beyond the physical or geographical borders. It now includes your information. We have the law that says Nigerian information, especially government, must reside here in Nigeria. But how can you do it? How can you do it? The physical box where our server is located is here in Nigeria. Okay? Now, for other organizations that are not Nigerians, what can you do? Go and sign an agreement, people will still consume your data covertly. And it can be weaponized, like we have seen in other relationships all over the world.
But okay, you know, the argument is that we have the capacity, because, I mean, I had a conversation on data centers, which is increasing in the country, but we still have our satellites and all outside the country. Good. So do we have the capacity, the infrastructural capacity?
Good. So the main thing that can encourage that to happen, right, is the science is there, the intelligence is there, we have the talent, we have all that, but it's patronage. Look, the day Nigerians started consuming local content in the entertainment industry, we have many billionaires. Look at the quality of the films we are getting now out of Nigerian economy. It's because Nigerians consume and they pay good money for it. Technology has got to shift the same way. In other words, we have many data centers. Many of them still have excess capacity today as we speak. But are Nigerians encouraged to host their data locally? If that happens, you realize everybody will have enough money, enough capacity, enough protection to secure all of us. And gradually, all those things will also become local. Okay? The challenge we have is that the Nigerians are not consuming Nigerian products. And Nigerian has shifted from being digital observer to digital native. We have over 1 million lines, phone lines in Nigeria today. We've been able to conduct election, over 100 and something thousand polling units. We're able to verify, people's identity remotely on a single day. All right, JAMB, WAEC, all these things have shown that the capacities are there. Yes, for development, Nigerians, we have agencies of government that are, that have been encouraged, that will be set up, right, to do those developmental acts. But what is missing now is patronage. And all the organizations, all the countries are developed. It is this internal patronage that encourages quality and standard that we're expecting to grow. India did it, right? When they wanted to encourage IT, what they did was to encourage anybody. If you have a contract or you want to bid for a project outside India, Indian government will give you a discount. The discount you are supposed to give, they will provide it for you so you can bid low and get international deals. And that's how they developed their local industry rapidly. Almost all Nigerian banks are using Indian software today just because of those simple efforts of policies of government that can encourage it. Nigeria is a big economy.
When we want to be specific now, because a lot of people, when you talk about Nigeria now, they don't just talk about just the potential, they talk about the ICT, the skills that's available, the brains and talents available. And you were saying that those things would have grown better if we had a local patronage. Now, you just set an example of the banks and the softwares that they use. And from your perspective, we do have individuals with those ideas here in Nigeria. Where can we begin this shift? Is it to convince the banks, for instance, that we have quality brains and software here? Or is there something that can be done to move the perspective?
One bank in Nigeria has taken the bold step and move. They're now using a local software. And it's not I don't want to mention name, it's not a small bank, it's a big bank in Nigeria. Globally, Nigerian banks pay over ₦1 trillion every year on new and support. Now, if we're able to develop that industry, can you imagine how much of money, how much of job, how much of employment, how much of even international visibility, how much of savings in terms of our dollar consumption that you will do for this country, how much of tax, that government will make for just one industry. Agric is crying for solution. There are a lot of issues with agriculture in Nigeria. Management of farm produce, management of charms operations, marketing. They're all there. And there are people who can build this solution. But are they patronized? No. Right? Are they patronized? No. Just as Mr. President will go to invite foreign direct investment, we should also showcase Nigeria's solution to the outside world. And look, if 1% of Nigeria, I'm talking of people who have phones, over 100 million, that is 1% is 1 million people. If 1 million people consume your product, that population is bigger than some countries.
So what do we do now? Is it to have those people make more noise about what they are doing, or is there an orientation problem?
I've gone through this path before. In fact, we're still going through it because we happen to belong to one of those segments that have created a solution that Nigerians can turn around a lot of things in Nigeria. Create jobs, create employment, more tax, everything. But the country, and it's not just government now, I'm even looking at Nigerians. We need to give local content and local platforms a chance. Giving them a chance means use them. If they're not good enough, give them feedback. They will improve it over time. I remember not quite long, during COVID, we have Zoom bombers, right? When you're doing your meeting and somebody will bomb into your meeting. It happened. We all experienced it. But immediately because of that feedback, they blocked it. And then they got a better platform. So if you don't give this feedback, these organizations will not grow. I've seen a lot of intervention of government where they give grants. No, that's not what the people need. They have built a minimum viable product. Give them patronage. Give them patronage. The one happened recently where some organizations were giving 50 million. I would have preferred that, look, if you are in a Greek sector, provide a solution to Nigerian problems, and government will pay you for that service. So you can service Nigerians, Nigerians will pay you, and there will be multiplicity of values all around the economy. All right? Not just give a grant that People will then spend the money to develop the platform. They will not be used, and then we'll come back to the same point.
I know we've been having this conversation even about the textile industry.
Textile industry is also another thing.
Yeah.
Nigerians consume a lot of textile.
Yeah.
Now I was shocked when I heard that Adire comes from China. Meanwhile, Adire was invented in Abeokuta. All right, they still do it fairly manually the way they've been doing it. Quality materials. I mean, President Obasanjo wears it with pride. No,
maybe that's part of the issue, and that takes us back to the question of infrastructure to get these things done.
Infrastructure is not the problem, it's patronage, all right? Okay. If you give that same sort of people, give them $1 million Ankara or Adire to do in a month, they will not have a choice than to invest in technology. There are development banks, there are development finances, there are commercial banks and the commercial thing that can fund, all right? Because one thing that we have found in Nigeria is that when you fund inputs, when you subsidize input, those projects don't survive. We've seen it. But when you reward production, when you reward output, many of them will survive. All right? Anchor borrower, there are so many programs of government that once you subsidize inputs, the project will die. All right? But if you guarantee that, look, go and produce. If you produce and you get this quality, we are going to patronize you. Almost all the time, those kind of projects survive. And they will do well. Right? So what we need is find a national orientation to make Nigerians do, consume local content. The fintech industry have shown us this. Entertainment industry. I've also seen there are many billionaires there in that industry now, simply because Nigerians don't consume Amitabh Bachchan or Indian films again. But we love Nigerian ones, Nigerian music. I mean, we over Michael Jackson and all the foreign ones are the ones we were consuming before. But when we switched our taste to consuming Nigerian ones, look, gradually I could remember some movies from 10, 15 years ago, 1 camera, 2 cameras, and they are making movies. Poor quality, but we managed it. Now look at the quality of movies we are getting. Can compete with anywhere in the world. In fact, they're actually going out to dominate the world now.
Yeah, and even collaborating with some
international Hollywood, yeah. Hollywood, they're not learning from us.
They're learning from us. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Femi Williams, the Chief Executive Officer of New Waves Ecosystem Limited and former Group Managing Director of Charms PLC. Thank you for your time. Wish you the very best.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll be talking construction. We've seen Nigeria's real estate sector booming. Is it for real? Is it a fluke? We'll discuss that after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Business Morning right here on Channels Television. And now we're discussing, well, an aspect of the real estate sector. We're looking at construction, the construction industry. Well, some say there's a hidden risk behind the construction boom. And a lot of issues have come up following that. But first, let's get a feel of what that sector is looking like now. We know that for the year 2025, we have a value for that. By late 2025, the value of that sector had reached between 23 and 25 trillion naira. That was late last year. Now, the projection is that between 2025 and 2028, we'll see an annual growth of about 3.1% for the construction sector, which is a subsector of the real estate. Total credit to the industry has been growing 5% year on year. It hit 2.4 trillion naira last year, about this time last year. Infrastructure deficit, however, is still large, and reports suggest that we need about $3 trillion annually over the next 30 years if we're to close that gap. Where will that money come from? $3 trillion. Well, high-speed rail projects from the federal government, mostly national road budgets. Of course, we've been seeing Minister of Works engage in some of those and some of the money allocated for it. Renewable energy seems to be another interesting one that's catching a lot of attention these days. The rural electrification is more of renewables, and money should come from there to that sector. Industrial city, you have special agro-industrial parks and zones in different states of Nigeria. The residential, of course, people have to live somewhere. So that also makes up a part of that $3 trillion that could be coming to the sector. Then the commercials, you have the markets and offices built everywhere for rent mostly, and some owned. And then you have institutional projects such as healthcare facilities and all. Well, let's see from a player's point of view if these things are coming together to close that gap and where we are at this moment. We have engineer Stella Okengu. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Winhomes Global Services Limited, Nigeria. Engineer Okengu, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Ini, and thanks for having me.
Great. So we hear that the real estate, especially the construction sector in Nigeria, is booming, but there's the fear that the bubble might burst. What's the true situation from your perspective?
Yes, Nigeria construction sector is booming, and I describe it as resilient, but that resilience is coming at a cost. At the top level, projects are ongoing, but at the operational level, developers and investors are navigating uncertainty, rising costs, and policy inconsistency. And for me, the most important thing is to understand this. Foreign investors don't invest in sectors, they invest in people and system. When those are unstable, investment slow down, and I know you can believe me on that. So
when you say, when you sound the alarm, because it sounds like you're sounding an alarm to say foreign investors invest in people and not in projects, what exactly do you mean, and what have you seen to warrant you saying that?
Yes. Yes, the sector is resilient, but individual operators are carrying that burden. We are absorbing shocks from inflation, exchange rate fluctuation, and unexpected disruptions. So while the industry looks strong, many operators are actually in survival mode, and that signals a little bit high risk to foreign investors. We call it resilience, but in reality, I call it survival. This dispensation is actually trying, but there's a lot of things that we need to adjust to,
So when we
make work well.
So when we, like I listed those projects, a lot of them from governments, rail, road, residential, special agro-industry, a lot of them come from the government. How much of it actually comes to individuals like yourself who are supposed to be operating in the domestic scene?
Let me say the construction sector, like the local players, the construction sector is the part that comes from my area, which is the one I know about. But notwithstanding everything, you know that we source funds outside. Apart from Nigeria, we source funds outside. So we have to make sure that the risk of getting that fund direct to Nigeria is mitigated. So that is where my specialty is. So that's it.
So from your perspective, now how do we drive this $3 trillion that we need to close the infrastructural gap?
Let me say the target is very ambitious, but under current condition, it depends heavily on foreign direct investments. You know, I always say that. Not just government funding. investors need confidence, legal protection, policy consistency, and clear return. Right now, uncertainty is limiting that confidence. You don't attract foreign investment with promises. You attract it with protection.
So what would boost that confidence that you're talking about to investors?
They have to be protected by the government so that we can be able to, when we put out our proposal to get in fund from outside the country, there is a fund that's I put up a proposal in one loan company in Nigeria, in America, and we want to get $75 million to do a mini estate. But with what is going on online, which they are skeptical. So we have to be protected, especially the people that brings in money, the foreign investors, they want to see protection. Some of them came down to Nigeria last week to do their due diligence, Yes, they know that your company has integrity, like, my company is also in America, but they have to make sure that the climate they are bringing in their money is protected too.
Then you also talked about uncertainty when it comes to regulations. How much of a problem is that?
Miss Ini, let's not go there. At least what happened to us, which the federal government are trying to resolve. That is why we are waiting, because we are not projecting our country out there wrongly, but we just want the right thing to be done. Like what I told you, what we want to protect, we want the legal part to protect us. We want the what they call it, the policy consistency in Nigeria. We want investors need confidence to come and invest back in Nigeria.
Then there's, this is being said a lot. When people want to build, they have to bring in skills people for bricklaying and all of that from surrounding African countries. Is that still a challenge?
Yeah, local players. That's what you mean, right? Yeah. They are not benefiting
the artisans.
Enough.
No, the artisans that are being used for construction. Yes, there are a lot of times individuals from Cotonou and neighboring countries have to be brought into the country. Is that still happening?
Yes, it's still happening, because they are the only people that gives us a cheap level. So what we do, we have to, although recently a lot of Nigerians, because of the economy, have started keen into coming out to work. It's happening though, but whenever they come, they have to bring in their proposal, and anyone that is cheaper for you, you opt for it. Well, it's still happening, absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunately so. But thank you so much for your time on the program, Engineer Stella Okengwu, the Chief Executive Officer of Win Homes Global Services Limited, Nigeria. Thank you.
Thanks meanwhile, you look so pretty today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's take a break now. And when we come back, we'll go global. Please stay with us. Well, a lot of the infrastructural gap we talk about requests or demands, cottage industries, and that has been linked to the huge import bill that we have for infrastructure and development. Ajaokuta Steel is supposed to be an answer to this. A lot of questions surrounding that. Well, some people say there are still salaries being paid to workers there. But what production is going on there? We did a little bit of digging in at Channels TV, and we'll bring you this report on that.
Governor Usman Ododo arrives at the mini banquet hall in Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, to receive the management and staff of the North Central Development Commission, NCDC, who are on a courtesy visit to him. This visit aims to strengthen the partnership with the state to develop some of its economic potential.
Participate in this very important meeting.
According to the management of the NCDC, its success as an organization depends on strong collaboration with state governments.
Your Excellency, the essence of our visit is just to seek some level of partnership and collaboration. The basis of the partnership and collaboration is for us to see how to develop the potential of economic resources in Kogi State and the North Central at large.
The state's strategic location and agricultural potential presents significant opportunities for agro-processing, logistics, transportation, and trade.
The Kogi State government welcomes this hand of fellowship, optimistic of a positive outcome.
For us to have real developmental strides in Nigeria, the source must develop. And Kogi State, the confluence states, being the source, we have to develop.
This interface is aimed at looking at the critical sectors of the economy and how the Commission can benefit our state.
Mr. Ododo highlights Kogi State's strategic position in the economic map of the country as it makes a case for the dredging of the River Niger to boost transportation, agriculture and commerce in the North Central region.
There are projects that already, as a people, we need to ask questions about it. For example, the dredging. This project was awarded, resources deployed, and today nothing happened. Then we need to ask questions. We need to follow up as a people, not just for Kogi State, not just for North Central, but the entire country.
Stipulates your obligations.
The management of the North Central Development Commission hands over copies of the act establishing it to Governor Ododo, underscoring the need for a shared commitment to foster economic growth in Kogi State and the North Central region as a whole.
We certainly do hope that we'll see more activities at the Ajaokuta Steel Mill in no distance time. Let's go global now with Laddie Williams.
All right, thank you so much. Annie, first off, let's get a check on what to expect this week. Definitely, there's a lot of data analysts and experts will be looking out for. Starting off Monday, we have the India Consumer Price Index and U.S. existing home sales. Definitely, we know most of the homes in the U.S. We'd like to track that market to be sure if most of the citizens there are buying homes. We'll be looking out for that data. Then we have on Tuesday, U.S. PPI, that's Producer Price Index for March. Definitely all attention has been on, CPI, what's it going to be like for the month of March, but there's also the Producer Price Index definitely showing how much producers are paying for inputs for production. Then Japan industrial production, Singapore gross domestic product, that's quarter-on-quarter data. We're looking out for that. Then for Wednesday, Eurozone industrial production, South Korea unemployment rates, US EIA crude oil stock change. We'll definitely be looking out for that. We'll see how that drives sentiment in the oil market. Also Thursday, Eurozone, final CPI. China Q1 GDP retail sales, then China's GDP annual growth rate. We're looking out for that too to tell about one of the biggest economies in the world. Then for Friday, Italy, balance of trade, Euro area balance of trade. We're also looking out for Fed speaks on Friday. We're looking out for some of the top federal government there when it comes to the U.S. Federal Reserve. Then we'll look at on Thursday, BOE, Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, he's going to be speaking on Thursday, and Christine Lagarde. They'll start the comments on Wednesday. then that will also trickle into Thursday. So a lot of market-moving data expected right there. All right, let's see if we have Maria Bird now, our correspondent in the U.S. Maria, do we have you? Good morning. All right, we'll try and get Maria later on. Definitely a lot of talk there about this truce that we're not able to get in the U.S., between U.S. and Iran at this point, and we're seeing that already pushing oil prices higher, pushing gold lower, and we're seeing most risk assets kicking off in the red. That's for this trading week. Let's get to some stories now. We see the Middle East war that will dominate global finance officials' talks this week in Washington. But World Bank President Ajay Banga, he sounded the alarm about a bigger looming crisis, a huge gap in jobs for the 1.2 billion people who will reach working age in developing countries. That's in the next 10 to 15 years. At current trajectories, those economies will generate only about 400 million jobs, leaving a deficit of 800 million jobs. The former Mascot CEO admits that focusing people on the long term is daunting, given a series of short-term shocks that have buffeted the global economy since the COVID-19 pandemic, the most recent being the war in the Middle East. Now, we also see the Bank of Japan there. They're also, yes, we're seeing weathers calling for vigilance against the impact of the Middle East war. Definitely that's on the radar of most central bankers at this point. They don't want to raise interest rates, so they're trying to see how they can end this as soon as possible. The Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda has said that economic and price developments were moving roughly in line with the bank's forecast, but called for vigilance to the impact of escalating conflict in the Middle East. Global financial markets are unstable. Crude oil prices are rising sharply due to the Middle East tension. He's saying that we must be vigilant to future developments at this point. The speech was closely watched by markets for any hints on whether the BOJ would raise interest rates at its next policy meeting. That's coming April 27th to 28th, as fading hopes of an early end to the Iran war keep markets volatile and model the economic outlook there. And as I said before, the central bankers now on edge at this point. What to do next? Because how do you raise interest rates when the economy might actually be failing at this point, and you're still trying to battle rising energy prices? So a lot of balancing acts there for most of these central bankers. Then we see for Saudi Arabia now, we see that they're restoring a key pipeline. That's about 7 million barrel per day pipeline as the Red Sea bypass. That's ramping up at this time. They've successfully restored the full 7 million barrel per day pumping capacity of its critical east-west pipeline, rehabilitating a vital energy artery as the kingdom continues to bypass the volatile Strait of Hormuz. The Energy Ministry confirmed Sunday that the repairs to a pumping station damaged in a strike last week, occurring just hours after the initial ceasefire had been completed, bringing 700,000 barrels per day throughout the back line there. The restoration of a 746-mile conduit allows Riyadh to maintain its strategic shift towards the Red Sea terminal. So definitely oil still getting all of the attention today, and most likely this week what's going on so far. But I'll toss things back over to Ini now. I'll be back again at 1:30, bring you an update of how the markets are reacting.
Thank you so much, Ladi. Obviously, the talks at Washington is going to be dominated by what's going on around Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, and what countries are doing as shield for their consumers, and how long that could take. Obviously, interest rates taking a major chunk of reaction from different countries around the world. And just before we go, let's take you to Nigeria's local bourse and see what it's looking like in early trade. We can tell you that the positive sentiment is still on, as at this time is 0.06% in the green. And looking like Ladi might be reporting a 204,000 level. We're really looking that way, but we'll see if that really happens. For the active stocks, so at this time, from the gainers, Infinity Trust Mortgage, Transnational Express, that logistic company, they're still in the green path and seems to be holding on strong to that. As of now, they're almost 10% up. 9.81%. Austin LIRS is also positive, Sky Shelter as well as Charms. Top losers, Geregu still on the list. Unfortunately, Total, Nigeria, Unilever, they're all on the profit-taking path at this time. But we'll tell you, Ladi will tell you what's going to happen more, or what will be happening after that at 1:30 during Business Incorporated. I'm Minnie John McQuarrie, and I wish you the very best of the rest of the day and the week. I'll see you tomorrow. God's grace.